If I leave now, your baby may not make it through the night. The words landed in the sterile emergency room like a crack of thunder, cutting through the distant beeping of monitors and the low murmur of exhausted nurses finishing another impossible shift. Emma Collins tightened her trembling arms around her 2-year-old son and stared at the doctor standing across from her. For a second, neither of them moved. The fluorescent lights overhead hummed softly. The digital clock on the wall read 11:47 p.m. outside. Cold rain streaked down the hospital windows, turning the parking lot into a sea of blurred reflections and flashing ambulance lights. Noah's small body rested against his mother's chest. His breathing was uneven. His skin felt warmer than it should. Every few minutes, a weak cough escaped his tiny lungs, and each sound felt like a knife carving deeper into Emma's fear. She had been sitting in that waiting room for almost 4 hours. 4 hours of forms. 4 hours of uncertainty. 4 hours of watching other families come and go while she silently prayed her son's name would finally be called. Emma was 28 years old, but tonight she looked older. The dark circles beneath her eyes told stories no one in the hospital knew. Stories of double shifts at a grocery store. Stories of unpaid bills stacked neatly in kitchen drawers. Stories of sleepless nights spent beside Noah's bed listening to every breath he took. She had learned long ago that life rarely paused long enough for people like her to catch up. But no amount of hardship had prepared her for tonight. Noah shifted weakly in her arms. Emma gently brushed damp blonde hair from his forehead and forced herself to smile. "You're okay, sweetheart," she whispered. "Mommy's right here." The words sounded brave. She wished she believed them. Across the room stood Dr. Liam Harper. Most people in the hospital recognized him instantly. Tall, composed, dressed in a black physician's coat instead of the traditional white. The coat had become something of a legend among staff. Patients trusted him. Administrators admired him. Young doctors wanted to become him. At 38, Liam had built a reputation as one of the most gifted emergency physicians in Chicago. He was known for solving impossible cases and making difficult decisions under pressure. He was also known for something else. Distance. He kept emotions at arm's length. He followed facts, not feelings. Efficiency, not attachment. Years in emergency medicine had taught him that caring too much could break a person. So he stopped letting people get close. Tonight had already been a disaster. 3 trauma cases, 2 emergency surgeries, 1 cardiac alert. His shift had technically ended nearly an hour ago. Every instinct told him to walk away, go home, and return tomorrow. Instead, something held him there. His eyes drifted back toward Emma and Noah. The mother sat alone. No husband, no relatives, no friends. Just one exhausted woman holding her sick child beneath harsh fluorescent lights. Liam looked away immediately, irritated by the strange feeling rising in his chest. He had seen thousands of families over the years. Thousands. Why was this one different? A nurse approached quietly and handed him a chart. "The pediatric team is overloaded," she said softly. "Earliest consult is another 45 minutes. Liam glanced at the chart, then at Noah, then back at the chart. 45 minutes suddenly felt like a very long time. Across the room, Emma noticed Noah's breathing change again. Her heart nearly stopped. She pressed the call button beside her chair. No answer. She pressed it again. Still nothing. Around her, the emergency department continued moving like a machine. Phones rang. Doors opened and closed. Footsteps echoed down polished hallways. Yet somehow she had never felt more alone. Emma swallowed hard and looked toward the nurse's station. "Please," she called quietly. "Can someone help me?" Her voice barely carried beyond her chair. Most people never heard it. But one person did. Liam froze. Just for a moment. Then he looked back at the young mother holding her son beneath the cold hospital lights while rain battered the windows outside. And for the first time all night, he didn't take another step toward the exit. Dr. Liam Harper stared at the chart for several seconds longer then. Necessary. Numbers. Symptoms. Preliminary notes. They were the kind of details he processed hundreds of times a week without emotion. But tonight the words seemed strangely heavier. 2-year-old male. Persistent fever. Respiratory distress. Possible complications requiring immediate evaluation. He lowered the chart slowly and looked back toward Emma. She was still sitting in the same chair. Still holding Noah. Still completely alone. Most people never noticed the exact moment exhaustion became desperation. It happened quietly. No dramatic collapse. No tears. Just a gradual surrender of strength. Liam recognized it instantly because he had seen it before. Emma had reached that point hours ago. The nurse beside him shifted uneasily. "Doctor, are you staying?" she asked. Liam glanced toward the exit doors. Beyond them waited his apartment, his empty kitchen, and another night spent pretending work was enough to fill every silence in his life. He should have left. Instead, he handed the chart back. "Get room 7 ready," he said. The nurse blinked. "The pediatric consult? I will evaluate him myself until they arrive." Within minutes, movement replaced waiting. A wheelchair appeared. Nurses began preparing equipment. Emma looked up in confusion as someone finally approached her. For a second, she seemed afraid they were about to send her somewhere else. Then Liam stopped beside her chair. Up close, he could see details that distance had hidden. Her hands were trembling from fatigue. Her jacket was damp from rain. The sneakers on her feet were worn at the edges. Yet despite everything, her arms never loosened around Noah. Not once. "Emma?" Liam asked. She nodded quickly. "Yes. I am Dr. Harper." She swallowed. "Is my son going to be okay?" The question arrived instantly. No hesitation. No small talk. Just the question every parent asks when fear has consumed everything else. Liam looked at Noah before answering. "I do not know yet," he said honestly. "But I am going to take a closer look right now." Emma closed her eyes briefly. Not because the answer comforted her. Because someone was finally trying. That alone felt like relief. As they moved toward the examination room, Noah stirred weakly. His small fingers curled against his mother's sleeve. Emma kissed the top of his head. "You are doing great, buddy," she whispered. The words sounded automatic now, repeated so many times they had become a prayer. Room 7 was small and brightly lit. The examination table sat beneath a row of cabinets filled with medical supplies. Machines blinked quietly in the background. Outside the glass window, hospital staff moved through the hallway with practiced urgency. Liam washed his hands and began the evaluation. His movements were calm and precise. Temperature, oxygen levels, breathing patterns. Every observation added another piece to a puzzle he was trying to solve. Emma watched every motion, every glance, every expression. Parents become experts at reading faces when their children are sick. Liam knew that. He also knew she was searching for clues in his silence. Unfortunately, the silence lasted longer than she wanted. Noah's breathing remained irregular. His fever remained high. Several symptoms did not fit neatly together. Liam frowned slightly. Emma noticed immediately. "What is it?" she asked. Liam looked up. "I need additional tests." Her face fell. "Something is wrong." "Something is unclear," he corrected gently. "There is a difference. But uncertainty often feels identical to bad news when you are a parent sitting beside a hospital bed after midnight." Emma looked down at Noah. The fear returned instantly. Liam recognized it because he had once seen the same expression on another face many years ago. His mother's. The memory arrived unexpectedly. A hospital room. Bright lights. Endless waiting. A younger version of himself sitting helplessly beside someone he loved. He pushed the thought away immediately. The past had no place here. Yet the feeling remained. For the first time all evening, Liam saw more than a patient and a chart. He saw a mother carrying a burden that no one should carry alone. Outside, rain continued tapping softly against the hospital windows. Inside room 7, the clock crept past midnight. Most of the city was asleep. But for Emma Collins, this night was only getting harder. And for reasons he could not yet explain, Dr. Liam Harper found himself unwilling to leave her side. The laboratory technician arrived carrying a small tray of collection supplies just after 12:15 in the morning. The timing felt insignificant to everyone except Emma Collins. To her, every minute had become its own mountain. Every tick of the clock represented another 60 seconds of uncertainty. Noah lay quietly on the hospital bed beneath a thin blanket decorated with faded cartoon animals. His eyes remained half open, too tired to focus on anything for long. Emma sat beside him, gently rubbing his arm while pretending to be stronger than she felt. Parents often become actors during moments like these. They smile when they want to cry. They speak calmly when panic is screaming inside their chest. They tell children everything will be fine long before they know whether it is true. Emma had been performing that role for nearly 2 years. Dr. Liam Harper reviewed the first round of test requests while the technician worked. The numbers still did not tell a complete story. Something was missing. He disliked missing pieces. Medicine rewarded certainty, but tonight's certainty remained frustratingly out of reach. Noah suddenly stirred and opened his eyes a little wider. "Mommy," he whispered weakly. The single word nearly broke Emma's heart. She leaned forward immediately. "I am right here, buddy." Noah blinked slowly. "Can we go home?" Emma forced a smile. "Soon." It was the same answer she had given 3 times already. Children measure time differently than adults. An hour feels endless. A night feels permanent. Noah nodded slightly before closing his eyes again. Liam watched the exchange from across the room. There was something powerful about the way Emma never stopped reassuring her son, even when no one was reassuring her. Strength often arrives disguised as ordinary love. Most people never notice it until they see it up close. A nurse entered carrying a tablet. "Doctor, the imaging department can fit him in within 20 minutes. Liam accepted the update. "Good. Let us move quickly." Emma looked up. "What are you looking for?" Liam paused before answering. Honesty mattered. Especially now. "I am looking for answers." She nodded but said nothing. Fear had taught her that sometimes asking more questions only created more worry. The nurse left again. Silence settled over the room. Outside, the rain finally began to weaken. Water still traced paths down the glass, but the storm no longer sounded angry. It sounded tired. Much like everyone inside the hospital. Liam glanced toward Emma. "Have you been managing this alone?" The question escaped before he fully considered it. Emma looked surprised. Most doctors focused on symptoms, not circumstances. "For a while now," she answered quietly. Liam waited. Something told him there was more. Emma stared toward the window. "My husband passed away when Noah was 6 months old." The words came out gently. No bitterness. No drama. Just truth. "Since then it has been the 2 of us." Liam felt something tighten inside his chest. That cannot have been easy. Emma laughed softly, though there was no humor in it. Easy stopped being part of the conversation a long time ago. For the first time all night, Liam saw her not as a worried parent, but as a person carrying years of invisible weight. Long workdays. Financial pressure. Endless responsibility. The kind of burdens that never appeared in medical charts. Yet somehow she continued moving forward. Noah shifted again. Emma instinctively reached for his hand. The movement was immediate, automatic, almost sacred. Liam looked away for a moment. Memories he usually kept buried began pressing against the edges of his thoughts. Memories of another hospital. Another family member. Another night when he had wished someone would stay. The imaging team arrived sooner than expected. A transport specialist rolled a small stretcher into the room. Emma stood immediately. Her face paled. Every parent fears being separated from a sick child, even briefly. Liam noticed her expression. "You can stay with him," he said. Relief washed across her face so quickly that it was impossible to miss. Moments later, they began moving through the quiet midnight corridors together. Under the bright hospital lights, with answers still hidden somewhere ahead, none of them realized the next test would reveal something that changed everything. The fluorescent lights in the imaging suite cast a stark glow over the walls, reflecting off the polished linoleum floor and the stainless steel of the medical equipment. Emma Collins held Noah close as they waited for the technicians to prepare the small scanner that would give them the first clear pictures of what had been causing his persistent symptoms. Each beep from the nearby machines echoed in her ears like a heartbeat she could not control. She tried to keep her mind focused, but the flood of memories pressed relentlessly against the edges of her thoughts. Late nights nursing Noah through fevers, hurried breakfasts that felt more like survival than nourishment, bills shuffled like a deck of cards she never had enough hands to manage, and the echo of her husband's absence that made quiet moments louder than they should have been. Dr. Liam Harper remained nearby, clipboard in hand, eyes scanning for any sign of irregularity while maintaining a calm exterior that belied the tension he felt inside. His presence, initially intimidating, now carried a quiet reassurance that Emma had not realized she craved so desperately. The technician began explaining the process, the gentle hum of the machinery filling the room with a low, constant vibration that seemed to underscore the suspense. Noah clutched his mother's sleeve with his tiny fingers, his eyes wide and uncertain, and Emma spoke softly, her voice steady even though her heart raced. "We are right here, Noah," she whispered. "Everything will be okay. I promise." Liam's eyes flicked toward her, recognizing the power of her words, the unyielding determination that had carried both of them through sleepless nights and countless appointments. The first scans began, producing black and white images that required careful interpretation. Liam leaned in, pointing out specific areas, explaining them in simple terms, yet Emma could see the focus in his eyes shift from clinical detachment to genuine concern. Each new image brought a mixture of relief and fear, a roller coaster that left Emma gripping the edge of her chair. The minutes stretched into what felt like hours as the technician rotated the scanner, adjusted settings, and captured additional views. Liam quietly observed Noah's reactions, noting the subtle changes in breathing, the slight movement of eyelids, the way the small hands twitched or relaxed. Emma's breath caught every time, the tension coiling tighter with each motion. Finally, the scan series was complete. Liam reviewed the images with an intensity that made Emma lean closer, desperate for reassurance, yet knowing that certainty would not come immediately. He set the tablet down and met her gaze. "There are some irregularities, but nothing we cannot manage," he said calmly. Emma nodded, relief and apprehension mingling into a complex knot that settled heavily in her chest. She glanced at Noah, his small body rising and falling with shallow breaths, and felt the weight of exhaustion combined with hope. Liam continued, "We will run a few more tests, monitor closely, and ensure he is stable before any further steps. I will stay until we are confident." The words offered a rare comfort, a steady anchor in a night that had been otherwise turbulent. Emma squeezed Noah gently, whispering, "You are safe now, buddy." The words felt truer than they had in many hours. Outside, the storm had eased, rain pattering softly against the windows, washing the city in a muted glow that seemed to mirror the tentative calm inside the hospital. Every heartbeat, every breath, every measured movement of Liam and the nurses carried a weight that Emma felt deeply, a sense that in the midst of uncertainty, someone finally saw their struggle, acknowledged it, and chose to remain. And in that acknowledgement, the first fragile strands of hope began to take hold, weaving a sense of possibility through the fatigue, the fear, and the relentless weight of the night. The clock above the nurse's station showed 1:18 a.m. when the next set of results arrived. By then, the emergency department had settled into the strange rhythm that only exists after midnight. The waiting room was quieter. The overhead announcements were less frequent. Even the bright hospital lights seemed softer somehow, as though the building itself understood that everyone still awake was carrying more than they could handle. Emma Collins sat beside Noah's bed with one hand wrapped around his tiny fingers. She had not eaten since early afternoon. She had not checked her phone in hours. The outside world no longer existed. There was only this room, this night, and the little boy who meant everything to her. Noah slept more peacefully than before, but every small movement still caught her attention. Every breath mattered. Every sound mattered. Across the room, Dr. Liam Harper reviewed the latest reports on a tablet. His expression remained controlled, but inside, pieces were finally beginning to connect. The additional tests had revealed something important, something subtle enough that it could have been overlooked during a busier shift. Liam stared at the findings and felt a wave of relief mixed with concern. Relief because they were finally moving toward an answer. Concern because waiting much longer might have made the situation significantly harder to treat. He walked toward Emma's chair. She immediately sat up straighter. Parents always know when a doctor is approaching with news. "Emma," he said gently. She searched his face before he could continue. "You found something." Liam nodded. "I think we did." For a moment, she simply closed her eyes. Not because she was happy, not because she was calm, because uncertainty had been exhausting. Even difficult answers felt better than endless questions. Liam pulled up a chair beside her instead of standing over her. The gesture surprised her. Doctors rarely sat down unless they intended to stay. "The good news," he began, "is that we now have a much clearer understanding of what is happening. Noah's condition is serious, but it is treatable. We caught it in time." Emma exhaled a breath she felt like she had been holding for days. Her eyes immediately filled with tears she had fought to suppress all night. "So he is going to be okay?" Liam answered carefully. "I believe he has every reason to recover well. We still need to monitor him closely, but I am much more optimistic than I was a few hours ago." Emma pressed both hands against her face. The tears came. Anyway, quiet tears. Exhausted tears. The kind that appear when fear finally loosens its grip. Liam looked away respectfully, giving her space. Some moments belong to people, not medicine. Noah stirred slightly at the sound of his mother's voice. His eyes opened halfway. Mommy. Emma immediately leaned closer. I am right here, sweetheart. Are you crying? Noah asked softly. Emma laughed through the tears. Only a little. Did I do something wrong? The question was so innocent that it nearly broke both adults in the room. Emma shook her head quickly. No, baby. You did everything right. Noah seemed satisfied with the answer. Within seconds, he drifted back toward sleep. Liam watched the exchange quietly. Something about it reminded him of conversations he had not allowed himself to remember in years. For most of his career, he had built walls between himself and his patients. Walls made of professionalism, schedules, and emotional distance. Those walls had protected him, or so he believed. Yet tonight, sitting beside a tired mother and her sick child, he began wondering whether protection and isolation were really the same thing. A nurse entered carrying fresh medications and updated instructions. Liam stood and reviewed everything personally. The nurse smiled slightly. She had worked with him for years. She noticed the difference. The extra attention. The extra time. The refusal to hand this case to someone else. When she left, Emma looked at Liam. You could have gone home hours ago. Liam glanced toward the hallway. Probably. Why did you stay? The question lingered between them. Liam did not answer immediately. For once, the explanation was not simple. Finally, he looked toward Noah's sleeping face and spoke quietly. Because sometimes the most important thing a doctor can do is refuse to walk away. Emma lowered her eyes, overwhelmed by the sincerity in his voice. Neither of them realized it yet, but before the night was over, that decision would change more than Noah's future. It would change Liam's as well. The hospital corridor was almost silent by 2 o'clock in the morning. The rush of the evening had faded into a low hum of distant footsteps, rolling carts, and quiet conversations behind closed doors. Inside room 7, Noah slept more peacefully than he had all night. The medication had begun doing its work, and for the first time since arriving at the emergency department, his breathing carried a steadier rhythm. Emma Collins sat beside him with a blanket draped over her shoulders. One of the nurses had brought it without being asked. She suspected Dr. Liam Harper had something to do with that. The thought made her smile faintly. Across the room, Liam stood reviewing updates on a monitor. Objectively, the situation was improving. The numbers supported it. The scans supported it. The treatment plan supported it. Yet he found himself checking on Noah every few minutes anyway. It was not protocol. It was something else. Emma noticed. You still look worried, she said softly. Liam glanced up from the screen. Experience teaches you not to celebrate too early. Emma nodded. She understood that answer. Life had taught her the same lesson. Good news was precious, but it could also be fragile. For a few moments neither spoke. The room settled into a comfortable silence. Then Liam noticed a folded photograph sticking out from Emma's purse. It had slipped partially free when she reached for her phone charger. The image showed a young couple standing beside a lake beneath a bright summer sky. Emma followed his gaze. Her expression softened immediately. That was Daniel. Liam remained quiet. My husband. She picked up the photograph carefully. The edges were worn from years of handling. We took that picture 6 months before Noah was born. Liam pulled a chair closer. Not because he needed to sit. Because he wanted to listen. Emma looked down at the photo. Daniel was the kind of person who never met a stranger. He could walk into a room full of people and leave with 20 new friends. A small laugh escaped her. I used to tell him he talked too much. Her smile faded slightly. Now I would give anything to hear him talk for 5 more minutes. The room fell quiet again. Outside the window, the rain had finally stopped. The city beyond the glass shimmered beneath streetlights and wet pavement. Liam understood grief more than most people realized. He rarely discussed it, rarely acknowledged it, but he recognized the shape of it in Emma's voice. It was not loud anymore. It had become something deeper, something woven into everyday life. How old was Noah? Liam asked gently. 6 months. Emma looked toward her sleeping son. He will never remember his father. Liam followed her gaze. That does not mean he will never know him. Emma looked surprised. Liam hesitated, then continued. The people we love leave pieces of themselves behind. In stories, in habits, in the way we treat others. Sometimes those pieces matter more than memories. For a moment, Emma simply stared at him. The words felt personal, as if they had come from somewhere beyond medicine. Before she could respond, a soft knock interrupted them. A senior pediatric specialist entered carrying a folder. Liam immediately stood. The specialist reviewed the latest reports, examined Noah briefly, and then smiled. A genuine smile. "Excellent work," he said. "His response is better than expected." Emma's shoulders relaxed instantly. Another layer of fear slipped away. The specialist continued. "If he keeps improving at this pace, we may be discussing discharge planning much sooner than anticipated." Emma covered her mouth. Relief washed across her face so quickly it seemed to brighten the entire room. After the specialist left, she looked toward Liam. "You heard that?" Liam nodded. "I did. He is really getting better." For the first time all night, Liam allowed himself a small smile. "Yes, he is." What neither of them realized was that the most important change in the room was no longer happening inside Noah's body. It was happening inside a doctor who had spent years protecting himself from emotional attachment, and inside a mother who had spent years believing she had to carry every burden alone. By 3 o'clock in the morning, the emergency department had settled into a rhythm that felt almost serene compared to the chaos of the earlier hours. Noah slept comfortably beneath the soft hospital blanket, his small chest rising and falling in a steady pattern that brought a fragile sense of peace to the room. Emma Collins remained seated beside him, her hand resting lightly on his arm, feeling the subtle warmth of life returning to his body. She had been awake for nearly 24 hours, but in this moment, fatigue seemed less oppressive because hope had begun to take root. Dr. Liam Harper stood nearby, reviewing the latest updates on his tablet with quiet focus. Every line of data, every number, told a story of progress, yet he resisted the temptation to allow himself full relief until all results confirmed Noah's improvement. Emma noticed his vigilance. "You are still watching," she said softly. Liam glanced up, his expression calm yet thoughtful. "I cannot help it. It is hard not to watch when someone has been through what he has tonight." Emma nodded, understanding the weight of responsibility in his voice. They had been partners in quiet vigilance all night, an unspoken alliance formed between a mother who had endured sleepless nights and a doctor who had refused to leave her side. Minutes passed, stretching like hours, filled only by the gentle hum of machinery and the occasional shuffle of a passing nurse. Then, in a moment so subtle it could have been overlooked, Noah stirred. He opened his eyes just enough to glance at Emma, before curling slightly into her shoulder. "Mommy," he whispered in a voice so small it might have been mistaken for sleep. Emma leaned in immediately. "I am right here, sweetheart," she replied, her voice low and steady. "You are safe now." Liam observed quietly, noting the tenderness of the moment, the precision of care that went beyond medical procedure. Emma's presence, constant and unwavering, had become as vital to Noah's recovery as the treatments themselves. A gentle knock interrupted the quiet. A nurse entered with new instructions and additional supplies for monitoring. Liam reviewed each item carefully before placing them within reach. Emma observed the careful attention, the deliberate movements, and felt a growing respect for the man who had remained when many others would have walked away. Outside the window, the city was bathed in the soft glow of streetlights reflecting off damp streets. Inside the room, something larger than treatment or numbers was taking place. The trust between doctor and mother, forged under the pressure of fear and necessity, became palpable. Liam moved closer to the bed, adjusting the monitor settings and making minor adjustments to ensure Noah's comfort. Emma watched, silently grateful. For the first time in hours, she allowed herself a moment of stillness, a moment to breathe. The night had been long, the stakes impossibly high, but here they were, surviving it together. Liam glanced at Emma, noting the subtle relaxation in her posture, the light in her eyes that had returned after hours of tension. "He is strong," Liam said quietly, more to himself than to anyone else. Emma responded with a small nod, tears threatening to spill again, but held in check by exhaustion and relief. For a few moments, the room existed in that fragile balance between past fear and emerging hope, a silent acknowledgement that the hardest part had passed and that the night's vigilance had forged something enduring. The first hint of dawn approached, brushing pale light across the room, and with it came the quiet realization that in facing the uncertainty together, Both mother and doctor had found a new understanding of strength, trust, and the profound impact of simply refusing to leave when someone needed you most. The first rays of morning sunlight began filtering through the hospital windows shortly after 6 o'clock. The darkness that had wrapped itself around the city all night slowly retreated, replaced by soft gold reflections that stretched across the polished floors of the pediatric wing. Inside room 7, Noah Collins was awake. Really awake. His cheeks carried more color than they had 12 hours earlier. His eyes were brighter. His voice was stronger. To anyone else, the changes might have seemed small. To Emma Collins, they felt miraculous. She sat beside his bed holding a paper cup of coffee that had long since gone cold. She had forgotten about it completely. Every ounce of her attention remained focused on her son. Noah was quietly coloring on a hospital activity sheet, while occasionally glancing toward the cartoon stickers attached to the monitoring equipment. The machines that had once sounded frightening now blended into the background. Their steady rhythm had become a soundtrack of reassurance. Dr. Liam Harper entered the room, carrying the latest reports. He had changed into a fresh black coat after borrowing a few minutes to wash up, but the exhaustion beneath his eyes remained impossible to hide. Emma noticed it immediately. "You still have not gone home." Liam looked at the clock and almost laughed. "Apparently not." Emma shook her head. "Most people would have left hours ago." Liam glanced toward Noah. "Most people are not Noah's doctor." The answer was simple, but something about it carried more weight than either of them acknowledged. Noah looked up from his coloring page. "Dr. Liam?" Liam stepped closer. "Yes, buddy." Noah held up a drawing. It showed 3 stick figures standing beneath a bright yellow sun. One figure was small. One was tall with long hair. The third wore what looked like a black jacket. "That is us," Noah announced proudly. Liam stared at the picture for a moment. Emma smiled. "Looks pretty accurate." Noah pointed toward the drawing of the doctor. "You stayed." The room became unexpectedly quiet. Children have a way of reducing complicated truths into simple sentences. Liam looked at the picture again. The black crayon figure stood beside the others beneath the sunshine. Nothing dramatic. Nothing heroic. Just present. "Yes," Liam said softly. "I stayed." Noah seemed satisfied with the answer and returned to coloring. Emma watched the exchange with tears gathering in her eyes again. Not tears of fear this time. Something warmer. Something closer to gratitude. A short while later, the pediatric specialist returned with another update. The final overnight observations had exceeded expectations. Noah's response to treatment remained strong. His vital signs were stable. The specialist smiled as he reviewed the chart. "If everything continues on this trajectory, I am comfortable approving discharge later this afternoon." Emma covered her mouth. Even after hearing positive news throughout the night, those words felt almost unbelievable. Home. The possibility suddenly felt real. After the specialist left, Emma remained silent for several moments. Then she looked toward Liam. "I do not know how to thank you." Liam immediately shook his head. "You do not owe me anything." "That is not true." Her voice was calm but firm. "You saw us when nobody else did." Liam looked away toward the window. Outside, Chicago was waking up. Cars moved through wet streets. People hurried toward jobs. Life continued. Yet something inside him felt different. For years he had measured success through outcomes, statistics, and professional achievements. Those things mattered. They always would. But sitting in this room, watching a mother finally breathe without fear and a child draw pictures beneath the morning sun, he realized there was another measure of success he had ignored for too long. Presence. Sometimes the most important thing a person offers is not expertise. It is simply refusing to let someone face a difficult night alone. Emma reached into her purse and carefully pulled out the photograph of Daniel again. She looked at it briefly before smiling. "He would have liked you." Liam blinked, surprised. "Why?" Emma glanced toward Noah. "Because he believed good people still existed, even when life gave you reasons to doubt it." For a moment, neither spoke. The morning light continued filling the room. Noah laughed softly at something he had drawn. Nurses moved through the hallway beginning new shifts. And in that ordinary hospital room, after one extraordinary night, 3 lives sat quietly at the edge of a brand new beginning. By late morning, the pediatric wing was alive with activity once again, the rhythm of the hospital returning to its usual cadence. Emma Collins gently lifted Noah from the bed, supporting him carefully in her arms as he yawned and stretched, his small body finally feeling lighter after the long night of uncertainty. The sunlight now filled the room fully, warming the pale walls and casting soft reflections across the polished floor, giving the space a sense of comfort and hope that had been absent just hours before. Dr. Liam Harper stood nearby, watching the two of them, his posture relaxed but his eyes attentive, taking in every tiny movement and gesture. The nurse handed him the latest chart updates, confirming Noah's vital signs remained stable and that he could soon be discharged if progress continued as expected. Emma smiled softly, adjusting the blanket around her son and brushing a strand of damp hair from his forehead. "You did it, buddy," she whispered. Noah looked up at her and offered a small, sleepy grin, his earlier discomfort replaced by a sense of ease and curiosity about the world around him. Liam cleared his throat gently, drawing Emma's attention. "Everything looks good for discharge," he said, his voice calm, but carrying the weight of relief and satisfaction from the night's work. Emma exhaled deeply, the tension of hours dissolving as tears threatened to spill once more, this time from a place of gratitude rather than fear. She looked toward Liam, noting the subtle fatigue in his posture, the faint shadows beneath his eyes, and the rare softness in his expression. "Thank you," she said quietly, her voice steady despite the emotions coursing through her. "I cannot express what this night has meant to us." Liam shook his head gently. "You do not need to thank me. I stayed because it was the right thing to do." His gaze moved toward Noah, who now clutched a small hospital-issued toy, a bright plastic figure that seemed comically small in his hands, but carried symbolic weight for both mother and child. Emma watched as her son played briefly, feeling the weight of exhaustion lift slowly, replaced by a dawning relief that perhaps life could continue without the shadow of fear looming over each breath. Liam took a step closer, lowering his voice so it would be heard only in the quiet room. "Emma, I want you to know that you are remarkable. You faced this night with courage I rarely see." Emma looked at him, caught off guard by the acknowledgement. "I just did what any mother would," she replied softly. "I could not leave him alone." Liam nodded, a small, reflective smile appearing. And that made all the difference. The nurse returned with discharge paperwork and instructions, quietly placing them on the counter beside the bed. Emma took a moment to review them while holding Noah, noting each detail carefully, ensuring she understood every instruction for medication, follow-up appointments, and monitoring. Liam stood back, giving her space, but remained a silent witness to the strength and resilience she displayed. For a brief moment, the room fell into a stillness that felt almost sacred, a pause after the storm of the night. Noah leaned into his mother's shoulder, his small hand brushing her cheek, and Emma felt a profound sense of relief wash over her. The uncertainty, the fear, the long hours of watching and waiting, all of it was gradually yielding to a sense of safety and stability. Liam glanced once more at the mother and child, his mind reflecting on the quiet power of presence, the importance of simply refusing to abandon someone when it matters most. The sun continued rising outside, casting a warm glow across the room as Emma and Noah prepared to leave. In that ordinary hospital room, after an extraordinary night, 3 lives, mother, child, and doctor, had been forever shaped by the decision to stay, by the quiet acts of care, and by the unwavering strength found in moments when compassion refused to let go.